Welcome to Conscious Living Collective, where transformation is not just a concept but an experience. My name is Tomek. I'm a scientist, teacher, and transformation coach. In this live session, we blend the latest in scientific research, the deep wisdom of mindfulness, and the art of fulfilled living. This is an invitation to have a direct experience, to rewrite your story and emerge with a renewed sense of purpose and well-being. So good to see you here. So good to be here. Welcome everyone to another session of Conscious Living Collective. It is our tradition that I begin by welcoming all the usual listeners and participants of our wonderful Conscious Living Collective, but I also want to welcome those of you who join us for the first time. So please do raise your hand and introduce yourself if you're joining for the first time. And I'm going to give my big thanks to my regular listeners. And I'm simply gonna just look at the icons that are floating under my screen and welcome Anita, Anne, Nina, Tosca, Parvane. Who did I miss? And again, I'm just looking at the pictures or icons that floating under my screen. And now I'm going to look at the comment section. So, Stacy, good to see you here. Barbara, Lee, Ruby from Ottawa, Kathy, Madam, who's here for some assistance for self-compassion today. Carolina from Chicago, good to see you here. Sue from Netherlands, very nice to see you here. As you have already noticed, today, topic that is very difficult to me. Cultivating self-compassion. It is a topic that is difficult to me because I have never learned self-compassion. Nobody taught me that at school. When I was a kid, that wasn't even a word. The only time I was hearing about compassion, not self-compassion, was during a Sunday Mass. Something that Jesus taught to us. But it was always with respect to others. It was never considered as something that you can apply to yourself. As growing up, to share just a couple of stories, before Nike came up with its famous motto, we were already, as kids, very much encouraged to skip the part of self-compassion and just do it. And I must say that was very difficult because it stifled my emotional development for a very, very long time. I did not have an ability to recognize that my needs are also important. The only thing that I was taught, and something that is still, and please correct me if I'm wrong and share your experience with it, it's still a part of the main social structure to perhaps show compassion to others, but most importantly, achieve, move forward, climb the ladder, whether it's a professional career ladder or any other type sports. Achieving is number one thing, and self-compassion is very low on the list. But today I'm here to share with you my journey with self-compassion. I'm absolute beginner. I'll be honest with you. I recorded a couple of loving kindness meditations that you can listen on Insight Timer if you search library. But this is something that I still struggle with, and that's why I wanted to come here today, and maybe in your presence, I'll be more inspired and encouraged to practice that art. It's definitely something that it's an art of self-compassion. Hello, Karen from Florida. Sandy, good to see you here. Charmaine, Jamie, Beth, good to see you here. Yeah, Beth. Beth talks about masculine who speaks on this when the world doesn't teach it. I'll be very honest with you, Beth. It's the topic, and me bringing it up, it's more out of necessity rather than me wanting to talk about it. And let me just be more precise when I say that. On the level of the mind and the level of the brain, I was raised to ignore things as self-compassion. I was very much encouraged to recognize others, and when the situation arose, to show compassion to others, but I wasn't really taught to consider it something that can be applied to myself. And that, as science shows these days, was a very poor choice, because one of the structures in your brain, it's called default mode network. And default mode network, there's no one particular place for this in your brain, but it's the whole network of connections that focuses on searching for danger, seeking situations that could potentially challenge our survival. And this is the part that both in our culture and evolutionary, we very much build on, don't we? We very much think most of the time about how to survive, how to move on. And the part of our brain that is responsible for high emotions, the prefrontal cortex, that walnut-shaped structure that you recognize from pictures as a brain, that's where high emotions, and compassion being one of them, is being developed. And it is something that, as I said, is not really encouraged in our culture, and therefore we must, and that's what I try to say when I talk about I'm being forced to do it. This is something I want to develop. It's not something that will show up in my life somehow, some way, if I wait long enough. And that development process is something I want to talk to you today about, because without self-compassion, what's going to be the most dominant force in your daily life? The almighty self-critic. And I have quite a few meditations on the power of self-critic and how to deal with it, because I'm dealing with this fellow on a daily basis. I even have a name for it. I personally call my self-critic the professor. Coming from the scientific and academic background, this is something that is very familiar to me, and I like to ridicule my inner self-critic, because that's the only way to deal with it. It's such a dominant force in a life of so many that if we don't use a humor, it might be very difficult to deal with it. Nevertheless, if we are to live fulfilled lives, if we are to override so deeply ingrained self-criticism that comes from the millions of years of evolution that, again, were there to assure our survival, the fulfilled life and thriving in our environment will be very difficult. Even in situations when we feel great, situations that are great, supporting us on so many levels, when we supposed to be happy, that self-critic always are ready to interfere and say, it is great, but it could be better. These are the words and whispers of self-critic. So I prepared for you today a cheat sheet of five things that can help us to cultivate self-compassion and hence introduce more of that into our brain structure through neuroplasticity. We need more neural pathways that lead to quote unquote self-compassionate behaviors, because if not, the domains in our brain, right, the real estate of our brain will be very quickly occupied by self-critic, or the professor, as I call him. So these are the five things I want to share with you today in order to cultivate self-compassion. Please let me know if you can see it on your screen right now. Can you see it on the screen? Yes, thank you, Brenda. First one, not surprisingly, is mindful self-awareness. For those of you who attended the sessions of Conscious Living Collective of the past couple of months know that self-awareness is number one tool to self-development. Pretty much every single topic I talk about that leads towards more fulfilled living starts with self-awareness or mindful self-awareness. And as you can see on the picture, it's not something that we have, that's something that we develop. Very important distinction. And self-awareness is very simple. Tune into your thoughts and feelings without judgment. Notice when you're being harsh or self-critical, and instead acknowledge your emotions with kindness. That's what we do in mindfulness meditation. So this helps us to create space between emotions and reactions. Remember Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In this space is our freedom to be happy and fulfilled, to paraphrasing it. And why this approach works? Because being mindful allows to observe the inner critic, recognize, and then observe inner critic, and shift towards more compassionate mindset. So this is number one thing. That's where we begin, by developing self-awareness. And the practical part of today's session will be about that. And let me ask you, is it easy to develop self-awareness? How do you feel? It certainly is not easy for me. It is the simplest of practices, but very hard for Stacy. And yeah, Kathy and Anita, it takes time. It's a development. And big part of the reason why we're here is to do it together. Because it's hard and it takes practice. Sometimes you need a companion. I need you to cultivate self-compassion. I need you to cultivate self-awareness. That's why I make an effort to come here every week to spend some time with you. And in times when I do not have energy inspiration to cultivate self-compassion, I come here and it all of a sudden becomes much easier. So thank you so much. Seal says, difficult to measure. Brenda, I'm working on that. I think we all do. Brenda, thank you so much for your kind support and your donation. Jamie, I find my self-awareness tend to self-criticisms fairly frequently. So this is it. We start with self-awareness and recognizing self-critics. So Jamie, thank you so much for bringing that up. That's the whole point of self-awareness. Developing self-awareness allows us to recognize when self-critic kicks in. I must be honest with you. I had a very difficult past couple of days, if not weeks. And how I know that? Because my mind turns on to self-criticism very quickly. And it's very difficult in the midst of that chaos to say to your inner critic, yeah, don't do it, it's fine. It is a difficult thing. But let me tell you one thing. Every time I somehow, some way tune in into self-awareness, recognize what is happening, and you see I'm already closing my eyes because it helps me to tune in and recognize those emotions and feelings that come to me in the form of tension in my stomach or my throat. All of a sudden, it becomes much easier to handle the self-criticism. And this is fundamental of self-compassion. We are not self-compassionate by standing in front of the mirror and saying, I am self-compassionate, I am self-compassionate, I am self-compassionate. That doesn't work. You show yourself self-compassion by turning to self-awareness and recognizing the self-critic. This is an act, radical act of self-compassion. Turning self-awareness on and recognizing what is happening. Deb, thank you so much for your kind donation. And that's just a start. The second one I really like, and I don't know who did I borrow it from, but instead of self-kindness, I want to talk about self-friendliness. We have to strengthen a friendly relationship with one guy that is so important in our life, with us. And how to practice self-friendliness? Well, we already have an answer in the topic. Treat yourself as you would treat a close friend who is struggling. As I was growing up, it was very easy to, when I see someone struggling, oh yeah, I'm sorry to hear. When I am struggling, oh no, just do it, snap out of it, get a grip. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe how many times I told myself this out loud to get a grip over the past week. But does it work if we simply berate ourselves and say, get a grip, relax? My favorite things to say, I have not met a single person that relaxed when was told, relax. It's just a funny thing. That doesn't matter what we say to ourselves and how we say it, it usually does not have effect. So changing the attitude to that, treating yourself as a close friend who's struggling, that's the way to go. And that's how to deal with the professor and a critic. When you notice self-critical thoughts, consciously replace them with kind and understanding thoughts. Yes, I am struggling. Yes, the times are tough. But I'm taking it as I would treat a friend. So offering yourself warmth and care during tough times, that counteracts the self-critic, those negative thoughts. And out of this flows the third way of cultivating self-compassion, and that's by cultivating common humanity. Thing to recognize is that suffering and imperfection are a part of the shared human experience. You are not alone in the struggle. This is simply part of what it means to be a human. And changing, and you see, this is very much intellectual exercise. Changing perspective. When you struggle, when that self-critic says you're not good enough, you are such and such, remind yourself, this is part of who we are. And when you feel that massive burden of self-criticism and perfectionism, which is something that I can talk about for a long time, it's all of a sudden becomes a bit lighter. We recognize that, well, somehow, some way, we have chosen this human existence, and suffering and the self-critic, it's a part of the software that we received. Is it something that we have to put up with? No. Part of our development is to learn how to deal with it and recognize, and that starts by recognizing it's a part of the software. You do not blame your operating system that you use on your phone or on your computer, that it has such and such screen. You simply deal with it. You learn to live with it. It's a part of what it is. And then, unlike in computers, it's much more difficult to upgrade your internal software, but that's what we do. So maybe there's something to learn from the computer sciences about upgrading your operating system to recognize self-criticism and put it into the background, switch off the app of the professor and turn on the app called self-compassion and the app of self-friendliness, particularly when the times are tough. And Jessica asked a question, why do you think our natural state is to self-criticize instead of self-praise? Jessica, the answer to that question is very simple, but not easy, and comes from our evolutionary development. It has been important in the past, and I'm not talking in the past 10 years ago, but thousands and thousands of years ago. It was much better survival tactic to pay attention to a danger. It helped us to survive, not to thrive, by the way. It was very, very effective survival practice to be self-critical and say, constantly improve, constantly search for danger. However, this practice, we evolved with this software, but this no longer works because I'm not sure about you, but I don't feel threatened by natural disasters and someone trying to kill me or not having food on my table all the time. I do not have those problems. Our problems are more not of the physical nature, but mostly of the emotional nature. And for these problems, self-criticism, as opposed to helping us survive, becomes a burden. And that's why we must develop self-compassion. Upgrade the software for the current circumstances, not for the circumstances that were valid a couple of thousand years ago. So great question, Jessica. Thank you for asking it. For Rita, very timely after failed relationships. Very good, and blaming and shaming and tearing myself down. These are the words of self-critic. Thank you for sharing, Rita. I'm certainly with you on this one. So we have common humanity, recognizing we temporarily occupy this physical body, our consciousness resides in this physical body, and we have chosen this path for reasons that are for us to discover. And number 4, on the path to cultivating self-compassion is practice of loving kindness meditation. I have quite a few of those on under my profile on Insight Timer, so feel free to go and check them out. But that's what we'll be practicing today, just in a moment, when we finish the 5 ways to cultivate self-compassion. We'll be practicing loving kindness meditation together, and we'll see how it goes, and you will see how difficult it is. And at the same time, you recognize that it's so much easier to do in a group when you feel supported by so many sufferers, who struggle with inner critic, but together it's much easier to deal with it. And last but not least, something that is very much on the scientific note is cognitive reframing. Okay, so engage in cognitive reframing. Cognitive reframing is a scientific term that invite us to challenge the negative talk. As I said, over the past couple of weeks, the negative talk was particularly intense and led me to feeling absolutely exhausted and led to emotional low. So cognitive reframing, it's simply asking yourself in the moments where self-critic throws at you all those questions. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I do not amount to anything. Ask yourself, is this thought helpful or true? First of all, ask yourself, is that helpful? When you talk to yourself this way, is it helpful? Would you talk this way to a friend who struggles? Looking at the befriending yourself and self-friendliness. Would you talk to yourself this way? And as I speak these words, I understand that they may sound true, but I know how difficult it is to do it in the moment when we struggle. Nevertheless, this is the way how we rewire our brain, how we change those neural pathways from self-criticism to self-compassion. That's how we upgrade. And it is up to us to upgrade. Nobody will force you to upgrade your software. You can keep your device unupgraded for as long as you want. You can keep canceling that button. Upgrade? No, no, no. But let me ask you, if you use your device, your phone, your iPhone, or whatever you're using, if you didn't upgrade it for, say, a year or 2 or 5, what would happen? Would you still be effectively be able to use your phone in the same way? Well, perhaps, but you would miss out on so much, so many useful upgrades. And so with us, without self-compassion and only equipped with self-criticism, we're missing out on life. I am missing out on life. Because when I feel low, I know that everything that is presented to me around me will be perceived as a threat, as opposed to opportunity. So cognitive reframing, is this thought helpful or true? Reframe overly harsh judgments into more balanced, constructive feedback. Feedback, as we know, helps us improve. Criticism only has reinforces the vicious circle of the professor, who brings us down and leave us emotionally exhausted. So yeah, and gradually developing cognitive reframing will reduce the self-criticism and foster more supportive internal environment. We want our internal environment to be clean, to be supportive. Imagine yourself living in a temple. Your body is being a temple where all the negative thoughts are scattered in every corner, polluting the inner environment. Would you rather clean that up? Would you rather replace those self-critical thoughts with the thoughts of compassion that are radiant and vibrant and support our life? I don't know, a lotus flower comes to mind right now when I speak about it. Jamie. So thanks for supporting me. Thank you for your donation. So, struggling with being kind, friendly to myself when that would lead to maybe disappointment with others, like with setting boundaries, for instance. Difficult to do when feeling I disappoint loved ones, but also no, it's not good to exhaust myself when caring for others. Yeah, I know that self-criticism is particularly vicious when it comes to others. Again, those disappointing thoughts. Am I disappointing? People I care for? I felt this very morning. We were with a group of friends. We were playing. We on the beach. Beautiful environment. Beautiful day. And yes, my mind was coming back because the way I felt for the past couple of weeks, those overwhelming thoughts. Oh, I cannot pass the ball. I cannot play better. I cannot perform better. It's very difficult to break that vicious circle. Nevertheless, this is the path. It's not easy, but we do it anyway. And we're going to do it together. Yes, guilt is the lowest vibrational, guilt and shame, two low vibrational emotions that definitely brings us down. You can feel it in our body. Do you have any more questions and comments before we jump into a loving kindness meditation? I'd be curious to know. So just to summarize, as you type in your comments, developing mindful self-awareness, right? That's the number one, recognizing inner critic. Strengthened self-friendliness. Recognize yourself as the most important friend in your life. Not something that is easy done, but helps tremendously. Drive yourself, treating yourself as your own best friend. Cultivate common humanity, recognizing that suffering, both mental and physical, is part of this human predicament, and there's nothing we can do about it. Just it comes, right? And practice loving kindness, which we will do in just a moment. And on a scientific note, engage in cognitive reframing. Ask when you judge yourself, when an inner critic throws at you all these thoughts, ask yourself, are they true and or helpful? That's cognitive reframing. And by answering those questions in a more positive way, we rewire your brain. We change neural pathways towards better living, more fulfilled living, better perspective. Jamie, Inside Timer teacher Femke Baker has helpful talks on similar topics, self-gentleness. Yeah, I'm familiar with Femke. Yes, absolutely. So much of content on Inside Timer is within the same vein because we need it. I need it, and you need it. You wouldn't be here if that's something that you didn't need. Okay. Today I will play for you Planet Earth by Peter Helland. Once again, I think you are familiar already with Peter Helland. I'm going to type in. I'm going to type in Earth. There you go. This is the music that you have heard at the beginning of the session if you joined early. And we will use this track to help us navigate the path of awareness. And I switch to the meditation screen to help us shift attention from me, or the picture of me, to inner landscape. Begin this meditation by recognizing your human condition. Recognizing that as a human being, you suffer physically, emotionally, psychologically. And rather than beating yourself about it, acknowledge this is part of the human condition. And as we sit to this meditation, we come to an understanding that for the next couple of minutes, we embrace our human predicament and see the inner critic that inevitably will jump on board as a part of this condition that evolved over millions of years. But it's no longer helpful. Does no longer improve our living, but very often gets in the way of our fulfillment, our well-being. Allow your eyes to close and make yourself as comfortable as possible. Making your life easier by taking one deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Letting go of any unnecessary tension. Treating yourself as you would treat a good friend. Wishing health, happiness, prosperity. All the things that we do deserve. Loving kindness is treating yourself as you would treat a good friend. Offering your smile, your support, and basking in positive feelings and emotions. And this starts with dropping your shoulders away from your ears, relaxing your jaw, and letting go of any unnecessary weight that's holding you down right now. And by doing so, you feel lighter already. you feel more loved. You feel more worthy and enough. Cultivating self-compassion, it's a radical act that, even though does not come easy to our tormented mind, it is a path of evolution from the survival to thriving. So let us include on this path a simple loving kindness affirmation. I am loved. I am worthy. I am enough. I am loved. I am worthy. I am enough. Repeat these words in your mind, slowly and gently, as if you were speaking to a good friend, offering your best wishes. I am loved. I am worthy. I am enough. Repeat these affirmations as I stand by your side, holding this space with friendliness and kindness, so we all can embrace loving friendliness. I am loved. I am worthy. I am enough. recognize how you feel after being friendly to yourself. See for yourself how it feels to treat yourself with kindness and compassion. How is it to be your own best friend? It is time to forgive yourself. It is time to see that all that you have experienced, it is a part of this human experience and brought you to this moment, here and now. Now, bring your awareness to the most human of all aspects, which is your physical senses. Recognize that these are means of perceiving this physical world. Your vision, your hearing, your smell, your taste, and your touch. Begin recognizing how you are connected to the physical world and how your physical body is the vessel that carries the consciousness that you are in a very unique, beautiful way. Coming back to yourself is one of the most important practices that you ever will do. Being aware of how you feel and being self-compassionate towards all the feelings, all the emotions that are a part of this human experience. So right now, to conclude, simply take one deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And when ready, open your eyes and welcome back. Okay, we are back. From this meditation, and I want to ask you how you feel. How was it to be your own friend, even for just a moment? I'll raise my hand by saying I'm not always a very good friend to myself, but I was over the past couple of minutes, and it felt really, really good. Very refreshing. all of a sudden I feel inspired to um, take all the challenges that are ahead of me, and I feel as if I can make it. I'm glad you like it, Peter. Brenda, amazing. Karen, very relaxing. Yeah, Sue, feels lighter, accepted and lighter. I think that's the way to go. Stacy felt very good. Yeah, Stacy didn't know what to do with negative emotions that surfaced. I think you did well by acknowledging them. That's where we start. This is the very misconception of meditation, that somehow, some way, we have to exterminate those negative thoughts. As I try to point out, the purpose of loving kindness is to acknowledge that those negative emotions are part of our human emotional landscape. And rather than trying to eradicate them, we learn to live with them. And this is perhaps one of the most difficult lessons that we learn here. Jamie, very emotional. Yeah, you see, Jamie, you and me are alike. We're not very good friends to ourselves most of the time. Sandy felt amazing, good. Tara feels grounded. And grateful for this community. And so am I. Yeah, we practice here. That's what it's all about. Have direct experience of it, as I tried to mention at the beginning of this session. Tosca was very good. I'm the champion of self-criticism. I can challenge you on this one. I dare say I'm better than you in self-criticism. But let's not compete in this category. Yeah, if they have Olympics in self-criticism, I could definitely take a part. But so many would challenge me on this one. Peter, you have no idea how timely it was for me. Well, I think self-compassion is timely to every single person on this planet as we live. And always a good time. So thanks for sharing that. Brenda, how do you bring it to the physical world? Well, that's you just did, right? This meditation will resonate with you for the hours to come, and will leave a footprint. And what that footprint is for you now to discover. And the more you reconnect with that space, that's the radical act of self-compassion. Oh, hey, Deb. I didn't see you are here. Very good to see you. Lee, wonderful. Barbara, love Planet Earth soundtrack. It is great. Deb, I was only able to catch the last, but this is exactly what I needed to be. Fantastic, Deb. Good to see you here. Who else do we have here? Mohammed, thank you for your wonderful, heartwarming feelings. Anita, that was helpful. I needed this today. I would have been better if I had eaten more before, but oh well, it's enough room to learn. Nina, thank you. The whole concept of being enough is so powerful in self-acceptance, indeed. Scott, a bit late. Thank you for the opportunity. Good to have you here. Okay. Erica, thank you so much for your kind donation. That's very compassionate of you. You showing your biggest compassion when you show up here, showing your compassion to me, and by donating, you showing compassion to me as a teacher to help me deal with this human predicament and continue my work as a teacher on Insight Timer. So thank you so much, Erica. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Sue, for your very kind words. Madam, I appreciate the aspect of our shared human experience here. Thank you, madam, for bringing that up, because Conscious Living Collective is all about sharing the experience. As I said, even though I very often am not very self-compassionate or good friend to myself, it is much easier to do so when I'm with you. And I really hope that this is of help to you as you sit in front of the screen and we meditate together. That this dealing with this human predicament, it's somewhat easier. That's the intention behind Conscious Living Collective. And on that note, I want to tell you that we come here every week. So if you want to come to the next session, go to my profile on Insight Timer, click the follow button and the bell icon so we receive notification when the time comes for the next session of Conscious Living Collective. So we can talk more, we can spend more time together in this wonderful environment, more compassionate, more understanding, more accepting, because I need it very selfishly. And that's why I come here and facilitate those sessions. And I believe that we all need it. And that's why we are here collectively. So do use my meditations as well. So many of them in my library. Check them out. Type in Tomek, self-acceptance, self-compassion, inner critic. I have quite a few of them on dealing with inner critic because, well, like I said, I'm a champion of self-criticism, so I know what I'm talking about. And also on that very topic, I have, for those of you who didn't see it yet, 6 pillars of conscious living. This is my course on the Insight Timer that it's very much in the vein of self-compassion, because we show our self-compassion by recognizing the predicament that we are in. And 6 pillars of conscious living, it's about recognizing those fundamental aspects of our being that we very often do not pay attention to. If you remember, this first thing that I mentioned was the mindful self-awareness. And mindful self-awareness is recognizing 6 pillars of conscious living and how they connect together. And through that recognition, we already showing ourselves self-compassion and improve our living by paying attention. Attention being your mental currency that you invest this time in yourself. That's the self-investment, by showing yourself self-compassion. So that's the way. I understand that some of you also need more help. I certainly am needing more help. And for those of you, I offer one-on-one sessions during which we dive deeply into your particular predicament, because we all need a friend in that very difficult work of self-growth, of compassionate living and fulfilled living. Nobody can do it on their own. We all need a friend, and sometimes that helps to recognize what's happening in your life. So I'm offering one-on-one classes. If you go to my profile on Insight Timer, there's my website there, and through website you can book a session with me. I think the first one's called Discovery Sessions, just a free 30 minutes session where we just become friends and become acquainted and see if we can help each other in that way. Scott, thank you so much for your kind support, for your compassionate donation to Teacher on the Insight Timer. So I want to leave you here and encourage you to look at yourself with more friendly eyes over the next couple of days and see how that's going to work for you, to rewire that self-critical pathways, to prune the self-critical pathways in your brain and reestablish the pathways, neural pathways of self-compassion. Maybe I just came up with something new. Neural pathways of self-compassion. Maybe I should use and trademark this term. Neural pathways of self-compassion. How interesting. I wish you a wonderful day and pleasant evening wherever you are. And I want to leave you with Peter Helland, Planet Earth. Thank you so much for all your kind donations. all your attention. Thank you for spending time with me, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then.